Okay, some good and bad news today. So firstly, the bad news. Let's start with bad news. Why not? I recorded this podcast at 7:30 this morning. I thought it was all done. 20 minutes, audio, made some really good points, articulated it fantastically. Then got an email from my virtual assistant, Jojo, saying it is distorted and there's an echo on it. I'm like, oh, bloody hell, Jojo, no. So I have got to re-record it again. So I've tested and tested and tested, and there was an echo. And I did the old, well, let's turn it all off, unplug it all, plug it back in, and let's see if it works. And it's worked. Okay, so we are talking on Mondays about my weekly figures. I am going to breeze through these because Jojo finishes in an hour as well, so she needs to get it all updated, etc. And actually put on LibSync, which is a podcast where we put the podcast and stuff, and it gets distributed everywhere. So we need to get going. But I want to make a point. Over the weekend, I'm an absolute sadder, as you guys know, with self-storage. And I believe we're overcomplicating self-storage at the minute. I did a deep dive into loads of container websites, and I just looked into them, and I won't say any names because just fantastic business model. It's a fantastic business model. Obviously, I won't say names because obviously then if you look them up and you see the area, then somebody might start self-storage near. I don't know. I just feel a bit uncomfortable saying that. But there's been loads and loads of self-storage businesses that I've been looking at, the containers, and there's, Angela's ringing me. There is one thing that I think that we're doing wrong in container storage. I think we're too cheap. There's a site that's got just two facilities, and I looked at them, and they're charging less than £20 a week for a container. And when you look at the site, it's a great location. It's palisaded, it's got a gate, it's got CCTV, it's got everything you want, but they're charging less than £20 a week for a container, for a 20-foot container. It's like, that is absolute madness. Yes, they've been there years, and so they bought the containers in very, very cheap, a lot cheaper than you can buy now, so the return on investment is really, really good. However, we've got to move with the times, and we can get away with charging more. And the full, because I did a quote, I mean, basically my wife fell asleep at 8 o'clock on a caravan site, and so I was left on my own, sipping Southern Comfort, and all I did was spend like 4 hours looking at self-storage sites and container sites, and I continued it on Sunday night as well. Not the sipping Southern Comfort, but the drinking, the looking at self-storage. And I really do believe that there is an opportunity with containers now. There really, really is an opportunity. And the reason I'm homing in on containers is, I want to get it straight, is because at the minute I feel a little bit uncomfortable spending a lot of money on a shop fit. We've got one under contract at the minute for a shop fit that's going to be around about 800 grand, somewhere around there with mezzanine floor, etc. I just feel a little bit uneasy starting a self-storage fit out from scratch, from a warehouse, with the economic climate. I just feel a bit uneasy at the minute with it. And so how can I still believe in the product, I still believe in the industry. So how can I start expanding, and what can I do? And it's simple. I can get into containers, and I can go more into containers. It can be manless. It's so simple. There's very limited capital expenses. We can asset finance them as well. Check out the great sponsors of the podcast. So we can do asset finance, and we can buy containers as and when we need them. So when the customers are there, we can buy a container. We can always have one spare or two spare, whatever your strategy may be. But there's not a lot of capital expenses. The expenses as a whole aren't very high. I mean, I'm looking at one at the minute, £20,000 rent, £10,000 rates. So it's £30,000, where the indoor site that I'm looking at the minute that we have under contract is going to be £170,000. £170,000. So there's a lot of expenses there. There's a lot of things to cover, because obviously when you first open, you have no revenue, or very little bit of revenue, bits and pieces. It grows over time, but there's a shortfall, so you've got to cover it. You've got to cover the shortfall in some way, shape, or form. Sorry, I was thinking about something else when I was saying it. So you've got to cover the shortfall, and it's quite a responsibility, is that, and especially the situation, the economic climate we feel at the minute. So that I just feel like containers are a really, really good door stopper. It's a way of getting the foot in the door into self-storage. I love it. And so obviously we're going to do more. I'm going to double down on it this next month and try to get maybe 2 or 3 sites before the end of the year under contract, and we're going to go for it, see what happens. And obviously I'll document the whole process here, and hopefully it'll be a success. I just think it's a surefire way of earning cash flow and getting into self-storage. And I don't think it's the best way. I still believe in indoor is the best because of the multiples that you can exit from. And if you look at the overall capital expenses, I was speaking to somebody on LinkedIn the other day, the overall capital expenses, I won't say the exact multiple that because this was years ago, so I don't want to lead someone down the garden path. But if you look at the capital expenses, he told me the capital expenses he got from when he sold, and it was huge. It was a huge multiple on the capital expenses. I was like, that is a way to go. But the only problem is that you do need a little bit of money to get into the self-storage industry. That's the problem if you're going to do indoor self-storage. I do think if you have got the money, then indoor is the long-term play. Short-term, containers. Right, let's get on with this week then, because I've been yapping for 5 minutes already. Right, amount of quotes, 24. So it's below where we want to be. We want to be around about 28. Anything above 28 is good. So it's 3.43 quotes per day. We want to be about 4 quotes per day. I don't know why I keep doing this with my hands and stuff. It looks like I'm dancing. Number of reservations, 9. So we good on the reservations there. That is a 38% conversion rate. So super, super happy with that. Number of reservations was 4. So it's a 44%. Number 4 would move in. So we've done the paperwork, etc. So we've done 44% of the reservations that have done the paperwork. Number of move-ins this week was 5, only 5. So the conversion rate was 21%. So not brilliant, but it is what it is. It's only short term. Something else I mentioned on the other podcast I did was never ever make decisions on a daily basis. Looking at the reports, you can never ever make long-term strategy decisions on a daily basis. On the daily reports, you can never do that on the weekly reports either. I would tend to hang fast on the monthly reports. Yes, you can read a little bit more into them because of monthly reports, so you can gauge a little bit more information, the trajectory of the business, where it's going, and so you can make decisions on a monthly basis. But ideally, you want to be looking at your quarterly accounts, your quarterly management accounts. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into quarterly accounts because there's some really, really interesting numbers surrounding our revenue at the minute for Willerby, and obviously, I'm going to lay myself bare and let everybody see the figures that we do, including net profit, etc., the capital, all the taxes, everything. And yeah, that's going to be next week. But so my advice is, yes, look at daily figures. Yes, look at weekly reports. Make sure you've got your eye on the ball with them, and then you can start making long-term decisions on the monthly figures and the quarterly figures. Quarterly figures really, because you can see the trajectory of a business. Obviously, if anything is starting to go wrong, then you can see it first in the monthly figures, but you need your eyes on them figures. And it's one of the biggest improvements that we've done in my business is having management accounts every single month, so we know exactly where we are. And cash flow forecast, they're the backbone of business. Anyway, right. So we'll go into that this next week. I think I've got loads of episodes. I'm going to record them all today, and they'll be all done for next week as well. Right. So total move-ins was 510 square foot moved in of new move-ins. We had one person taking an extra unit, so it was 670 square foot of move-ins. So not a great week. The conversions was 21% for quotes to move-ins, and we had the Luton van rented out. Guess how many times? Some of you right, some of you wrong. 4. So 4 times. So percentage quote breakdown. Google was 12 quotes. That's 50%. So maybe it was Google that didn't perform very well this month, because normally we have Google. We have Google performing quite. So I've just got a cancellation through from Storer for Clough Road. 125 square foot moving out on Thursday, 27th of October. Ugh. Don't like that, do we? And we just had a Bonjoro through to do. It's a quote. I thought it was a moving. Anyway, back to where I was. This is how easily I am distracted. Right. So maybe it was Google that didn't perform very well, because normally on a weekly basis we have over 60% of our quotes coming from Google, and this week it was only 12. Word of mouth was 4, so that's 17%. Passing by was 7, that's 29%, and everything else was 0. So we had 670 square foot due in, what came in, and we had 1,150 square foot moved out. So it was down 480 square foot, which isn't good. Amount of rooms moved in 6, amount of rooms moved out 12, and we have 347 internal rooms occupied. Number of containers in 2. So we've got no containers out. So we've got 46 containers rented out. Again, if you look at the containers, performing really, really well at Clough Road. 46 out of 52 is rented out. And the ones that aren't rented out are predominantly these 40 square foot units that we're finding a little bit difficult to sell. And if you look at Beverley, we're 91 or 92% full, which is wicked. And we only spend around 2 hours a week managing that site. And so it's easily done, and it nets around about 130 to 140 net profit a week. My wifey is ringing me. That means my lunch is ready. God damn bless her. So I'm going to have to shoot. So car parking, none in, none out. So we've still got 4 car parking spaces. Occupancy is 80.27%. Not ever going below 80%, I'm telling you. We'll see. Average merchandise sale is 24.66 per move-in. This is a negative, really, really bad one here. £17,000 worth of insurance sold. Average insurance was $3,400. It's only 1 week. Remember, we don't make long-term decisions or we don't make any. It's just an indication. So this week wasn't very good, but the previous weeks have been okay. And as long as the monthly is over 5,000 or the quarterly is over 5,000, your boy Dean is happy. Right, square foot moved in. Due in next week is 8 move-ins due next week for 935 square foot. Move outs due next week is 8 for 630 square foot. And so that means that we're supposed to be 305 square foot up. I reckon we'll be over 500. PMA, positive mental attitude. Money, how much did we take? We took £28,787.25p. In total, Clough Road was £4,129. Beverley was £6,896.44, and bounced direct debits of 196, and the Willerby was £17,761.72. The wife has actually come to the man cave to get me for lunch, so I am going. I've got some interesting data to tell you tomorrow about the users, people who came and visited our site, our website, stormore.co.uk, and how many converted, etc. I've got some interesting data for you for that tomorrow to go into and discuss. All right, I'll leave that with you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you geezers later on. And girlses. I know, just go bye.